The Other Chronicles of Robin Hood, Part 1, Outlaw of the Forest. Good evening, friends. Tonight we're going to be telling a story that you may have heard before, though maybe not in this way. You see, once upon a time, in the heart of old England, there lived a young man named Robin of Locksley. He was quick with a smile, quicker with an arrow, and always ready to stand up for someone in need. Robin grew up in a small village outside of Nottingham, surrounded by woods and farmland. He loved to run through the trees, race the wind across the meadows, and practice archery for hours each day. People said he could shoot the tip off a candle from 50 feet away, and it was true. But Robin was best recognized for doing what was right. As he grew older and wiser, his name became known for helping those who had less. Robin tried to make sure that his neighbors had food to eat, a warm place to sleep, and the chance to live without fear. But sadly, Nottingham was changing right before his eyes. The king, King Richard the Lionheart, had gone off to fight in distant lands, and while he was away, his brother, Prince John, had taken the throne. Now, Prince John was selfish and cruel. He raised taxes on the poor, took land from families, and filled his castle with gold and treasure. And his right-hand man, the sheriff of Nottingham, made sure that no one dared to complain. What made the sheriff dangerous was that he wasn't just cruel, he was also clever. The sheriff had sharp eyes, a sharp tongue, and an even sharper sword. But what he didn't have was a heart. Robin saw how the people suffered. He saw children going to bed hungry and old farmers losing their land. He saw rich men riding in adorned carriages, flaunting their wealth, as broken beggars stood starving in dirty alleys, hope absent in their vacant gaze. And he felt anger burning in his stomach. This was not the Nottingham he had known growing up. This was brutality and pain. This was wrong. One day, Robin saw the sheriff's men take the last bag of grain from a poor widow, and he couldn't stay silent. Standing in the city center, next to a massive statue of King Richard, Robin shouted, "This isn't justice. This is robbery, carried out in the name of the law." Soon, a crowd gathered around Robin, listening as he urged them to stand up and fight. Whispers erupted from the multitude as dirty faces stared back at Robin in amazement. How could they stand up and fight? They were poor. They were weak. They were nothing. "The time has come for us to do what we know is right, even if they say it's wrong," Robin said. "Listen to him, and you will lose more than your gold," a cold voice sounded from behind the crowd. Looking around, the people saw the sheriff and a band of guards starting to encircle the city center. They were about to be trapped. Panic rose with shouts of fear as the townspeople ran, the crowd mixing with the guards in a tangled, chaotic mess. But one lone figure stood still beside the stone statue, resolute in his path. Robin knew he had to do something. The sheriff glared at Robin through the mob between them. "Take him!" His voice rose above the clamor, but Robin was too quick. He slipped away before the guards could catch him and disappeared into the crowd. That very night, Robin's house was burned to the ground, his name scratched from the records. He was declared a criminal, a troublemaker, an outlaw. But Robin didn't cry or beg for forgiveness. He didn't mourn the loss of his house or his position in town. He went to the place he knew best, to the woods surrounding Nottingham, the lush, green Sherwood Forest. By the light of a silver moon, Robin vanished among the whispering wilderness of tangled roots, winding streams, and towering oaks. Sherwood Forest was like a kingdom all its own. Sunlight sparkled through the leaves, birds sang in the treetops, and wild animals crept quietly through the underbrush. It was beautiful, but also full of hidden dangers. Robin built a hideout deep in the woods where no one could find him. He was as comfortable up among the branches as he was on a city street. He ditched his red and blue tunics and donned a soft green and brown that blended into the trees. Robin could disappear as easily as a squirrel or a bird. And as time went on, he wasn't alone. One by one, others came to join him. Good people who had been wronged by the sheriff and Prince John. There was Little John, who was nearly 7 feet tall, with arms like a tree trunk. Robin first met him while trying to cross a narrow bridge in the forest. Both men refused to step aside, and they ended up in a playful staff fight that sent them both tumbling into the river. After a good laugh, they became best friends. Then came Friar Tuck, a round, cheerful monk who loved food, stories, and standing up to bullies. He might have looked jolly, but he could swing a frying pan like a champion. There was Much, the miller's son, who had lost everything when the sheriff took his father's meal. And Will Scarlet, a daring swordsman who could charm the coins off a nobleman's belt, and sometimes did. And last, but never least, came Maid Marian. Kind, brave, and smart, Maid Marian had once lived inside the castle walls, but after seeing the cruelty of Prince John, she chose to leave that life behind and help Robin. Robin and Marian had known each other since childhood. She was an excellent archer herself, and often outwitted the sheriff with her clever plans. You see, Maid Marian is deserving of a few tales herself, but that will need to wait until another campfire on another night. Now, standing side by side in the forest, each person who made their way to Robin saw the same thing, a world that needed changing. Together, they formed the Merry Band, wild warriors with broad grins. Don't let the word merry fool you. Yes, they laughed and told stories around the campfire. Yes, they sang songs and shared what little they had. But they were always watching, always planning, always ready to strike back at the prince and the sheriff. One foggy, cold morning, Robin spotted a line of horses and wagons making their way down the forest road, colorful banners blowing in the breeze. From his perch high in a tree, he could see the sheriff's guards riding alongside. One wagon, covered in velvet cloth, rattled and clinked with the sound of coins, headed to Prince John's treasury. Robin grinned. "Looks like the sheriff's been collecting taxes again," he whispered to Little John. "What a shame. It appears their wagons are loaded too heavily. They could break an axle if they aren't careful. We should help them." Little John smiled at his old friend, and they climbed down the tree to make their plan. That afternoon, Robin and the merry band prepared a trap. In the thickest part of the forest, where the tree branches created an arch above the shaded road, they set up a fake fruit and vegetable stand by the roadside. Friar Tuck wore an apron and offered free samples. The rest of the merry band hid in the trees. When the sheriff's wagon came by, Robin, dressed as an humble farmer with a floppy hat and muddy boots, stepped in the sheriff's path and waved. "Fine apples and fresh turnips for sale. Only a penny each," he called. The sheriff didn't even slow down. "Out of my way, peasant. We are on the king's business," he barked. That's when Robin dropped his disguise. "Too bad," he said, pulling back his hood and aiming his bow. "You could have gotten the lawman's discount." Arrows zipped through the air with a thwick and a thwack, striking the wooden frame of the wagons as they came to a halt. Little John dropped from a tree with a mighty roar, swinging his staff. Marian appeared from behind a bush, sword gleaming. In seconds, the guards were surrounded. No one got hurt, but they were all frozen with shock. The merry band was everywhere, opening the wagons, grabbing sacks of stolen coins, and disappearing into the trees. Before the sheriff even realized what was happening, he was tied to a tree with a note pinned to his chest. You take too freely and care too weakly. We take from the greedy and give to the needy. Signed, Robin Hood and his merry band. That night, in the villages nearby, people opened their doors to find bags of flour, cured meats, and coins they had thought were lost forever. "Mama, look," a little girl cried. "We have some food again." It had to have been Robin Hood, the mother whispered, tears in her eyes. He's always watching out for us. Fires were lit, songs were sung, and for the first time in a long time, people laughed again. But back in Nottingham Castle, the sheriff fumed. "This has gone on long enough," he shouted, slamming his fist on the table. "Robin Hood must be stopped." Prince John, lounging on a throne made of silk cushions, rolled his eyes. "I hear you complaining, but I don't see you taking action against this archer from the forest. And all the time that you sit idle, my wallet grows lighter and lighter." "He's a thief and a troublemaker," the sheriff growled. "He's a symbol," said Prince John, tapping his jeweled ring, "which makes him far more dangerous." Then the prince smiled a cruel smile. "Let us set a trap," he said. "Announce an archery contest. Prize? A golden arrow. And when Robin Hood shows his face, we take him down." The sheriff's eyes glittered. "A brilliant trap, Your Highness." Back in the forest, as soon as Robin heard the news about the contest, he let out a loud laugh. He leaned back against a tree, twisting a feathered arrow between his fingers. "A golden arrow, is it?" he said with a smirk. Marian raised an eyebrow. "You're not thinking of going. It's bound to be a trap." "Oh, I'm definitely going," said Robin. "The sheriff wants a show." He notched an arrow, pulled back the string, and let it fly. It struck the center of an apple hanging in a far-off tree with a sharp, echoing splat. "I'll give him one he'll never forget. Let's spring the trap." The fire's burning low, and so our story's going to have to continue next week. Will Robin really walk into a trap? Can he actually win this contest and escape? Or has the sheriff finally outsmarted the outlaw? We'll find out in part 2, The Archer and the Arrow. Good night, friends.